Hello and welcome to Worship at Home for Sunday the 27th of June. It's good to be coming together in this way. I'm going to share with you a passage which perhaps it would seem unusual to be sharing with you on this particular day, but we're coming to the end of a series based on Mark's Gospel. We called it Bible Month, and over the next week we're going to be thinking particularly about the Passion of Jesus. And so I'll share verses 33 to 41 of Mark's Gospel, chapter 15. At the 6th hour, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing nearby heard this, they said, Listen, he's calling Elijah. One man ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down, he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus heard his cry and saw how he died, he said, Surely this man was the Son of God. Some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph, and Salome. In Galilee, these women had followed him and cared for his needs. Many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem were also there. A visiting minister at school one day was asked by one little 6-year-old boy why he was wearing a cross around his neck. And the minister said, It's my cross of Jesus. He's dead, replied the boy abruptly. I know, replied the minister. He did die, but I believe he rose again and is alive today. He's dead, the little boy persisted. The minister patiently replied in a similar way to before. Finally, the young lad said, It's all right, I was only testing you. Whenever we read again the chapters about Jesus' death, they should test us. They shouldn't just be confined to being read on Good Friday. In fact, we should return to these events over and over throughout our lives in all situations and circumstances and ask ourselves, what happened here? Why is the death of Jesus important at this particular time of my life? We should look at the events in the world, in our communities, in our families and say, Jesus died. How is that relevant? How does that event bring us hope? The end of Mark's Gospel is perhaps better understood by looking at the beginning. At the beginning of his Gospel, he makes it clear for his readers who he believes Jesus is. In the very first verse, he writes, the beginning of the Gospel about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Let's just break that down a moment. The beginning. Something is starting, yet it's something which has somehow already been around for a very long time. Good news, or the Gospel, Mark talks about. Mark announcing an event that brings about a radically new state of affairs for all humankind. Jesus, a fairly common name meaning Saviour. Messiah, Mark uses that word, and he clearly identifies Jesus to his readers as the long-expected one, and uses the word Messiah because of the hopes that people immediately attach to it. And then Son of God. Mark uses this term throughout his book of Good News to describe the relationship which Jesus is with God. So that verse again, the beginning of the gospel about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And without this identification of Jesus by Mark, at the end of his book, we would perhaps be talking about the death of an ordinary man, but clearly we're not. And there are signs in Mark's record of the crucifixion which make this clear too. Crucifixions were marked by screams of rage, cries of pain, wild curses and shouts of despair by the victims. Mark doesn't actually say anything about the demeanour of Christ on the cross. But, as we read, at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Jesus cries out, my God, why have you abandoned me?" And the centurion standing nearby, when he heard this cry of Jesus and saw how he died, said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." And in order for Jesus' death to mean something in our lives, we have to believe that Jesus is God and that God is Jesus. But also in this moment of death on the cross, Jesus knew utterly for himself the separation from God, which we know when we choose to go our own way. And because of this, we do not feel sorrow, but we rejoice. We do not live in despair, we live in freedom. We do not wallow in guilt, we live as God's forgiven people. And for me, the work of God in Jesus on the cross provides the potential for reconciliation. Reconciliation between God and humanity, between Jew and Gentile, between humanity and the rest of creation, between churches, between denominations, between individuals, between rich and poor, black and white, healthy and sick, between one country and another, and between me and my Maker.